here today to introduce a woman who has certainly had an impact on my life ever since I read I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings when I was 17 years old. And believe me, that's been a while. Ever since then, she has shared her loves and losses, her successes and failures, her compassion, her passion, her strength, her courage, and most important, her wisdom with us, and we are all the wiser for it. It is my great honor to introduce you to and welcome you to an afternoon with Dr. Maya Angelou. And to celebrate Dr. Angelou's recent 85th birthday, we have some young men from Wiley Elementary School today who participate in the United Way's Mentoring Matters initiative. We believe strongly that mentoring makes a huge difference in a child's success in school and in life. And these young men are examples of that. For Dr. Angelou? Yes.
Yes. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Dr. Angelou. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Thank you, boy. And happy birthday, Dr. Angelou.
Was I supposed to wait and be recognized? I thank you very much for inviting me. I know that it's a blessing to be a blessing. And I know that you all are blessings. I also know I read your intent in the United Way and the various organizations you represent. And I thought of a shred from a 19th century folk song, which says, when it looked like the sun wasn't gonna shine anymore, God put a rainbow in the clouds. Imagine that. Now, the song was inspired by a statement in Genesis. In Genesis, we are told that rain had persisted so unrelentingly that people thought it would never cease. In an attempt to put the people at ease, God put a rainbow in the sky. That's in Genesis. But in the 19th century, some African-American former slave, a poet, probably a woman, I'm not sure about that, said God didn't just put the rainbow in the sky. God put the rainbow in the clouds themselves. Now, we know that suns and moons and stars and all sorts of illuminations are always in the firmament. But clouds can so lower and lower that the viewer cannot see the light. But if the light is put into the clouds themselves, that means at the worst of times, there's a possibility of seeing hope. When you do what you mean to do, and help some black child, white child, Asian or Spanish-speaking child, Native American person, an older person who has given up hope, really, for ever receiving kindness, Courtesy. When you show courtesy, kindness, and respect, you have given a rainbow right to the clouds themselves. That means a person can look into the clouds and see a possibility of hope. There was no way I wouldn't be here today. I wanted to remind you and thank you for being individually and collectively rainbows in the clouds. Thank you. It is my blessing to have a representation here of two friends, Dan and Shelley Moorheim from Washington, D.C. Dan Moorheim's father and mother were friends of mine 50 years ago in Los Angeles, 60 years ago in Paris, but 50 years ago in Los Angeles. And when a man refused to give me a house, he had said on the telephone that the house was mine. We agreed on the money and everything, on the bedrooms. But when I came to sign the lease and the man saw I was black, he said, "Oh no, it was sold. I mean, it was rented this morning." I said, "Tell me the truth." "Oh no, it was rented this morning. I have nothing against you people." Uh-oh, told it. So I talked to Atara and Joe Moorheim, Dan's father and mother. I said, "The brute, he lied. On top of being a brute, he also lied." And so Joe Moorheim said, "I'll get the house." So he went to the man, he got the lease, and then I was left in the car with Atara and my son. And Joe said, "Listen, I have to left something in my car before I sign it. I've got to go and get this thing I've left in the car." He got the thing, and I signed the lease. And we went back up the stairs, and the man said, "Okay, so here you are." Well, and then he looked over his shoulder, Joe's shoulder, and saw me. He said, "You bastard, you Jew bastard. I knew you'd do something like that. I know what you're doing. I should sue you." Whereupon Joe Moorheim said, "Don't talk about suing. I will ask this woman to sue you, and I will stand for her in court, and we'll sue you within an inch of your life." That was about 55 years ago. In all that time, this chap has grown up, and he's written a book called A Better End. He is at once a doctor, a medical doctor, and an elected official in Baltimore. And he's written about old people and loneliness, old people and fear, young people and fear, how we can make it over. It's such a wonderful idea. And so we've reestablished our friendship, and I was so pleased that they came down yesterday and they could stay over to hear what I have to say today, because I've been saying this all the time anyway. So that's a blessing. And then another blessing, I share a great-great-grandmother with a young woman who has a place called Kim B's in Greensboro. And for the last 2 years, she's won the national award for the best teas in the United States. Young black woman. Stand up, please. Kim B. Kim B. I know that at each table, there's somebody worth standing. Stand up, doctor. Stand up, doctor. Chancellor. Yes. At each table, there's somebody that each one of us can turn and say, "Thank you. Thank you. You have shown me that you're free enough and courageous enough to care for me, although I may not look like you. I may not share your complexion. I may call God a different name than you call God, if I call God at all. But you've dared, young men and women, particularly women. Courage is the most important of all the virtues, because without courage, you can't practice any other virtue consistently. You can be anything erratically, kind, fair, true, generous, loving, blah, blah, blah. But to be that thing time after time, even when people in your own family say, you mean you're still seeing those people? Don't you know those are gay? Don't you know those people are white? Don't you know what white people did? Don't you know those people are black? What do you mean to tell me? Don't you know these people are probably immigrants and not legally here? It takes courage to constantly say, I'll take a chance. I'll accept that I am a human being and nothing human can be alien to me. I'll take a chance. Now, I suggest that you don't start out just being courageous. Try, to be courageous in small things. If you wanted to pick up a 100-pound weight, you wouldn't just go out and pick up 100. You'd first start with 5 pounds and 10 pounds and 20 and so forth. And after a while, you'd be able to pick up a 100-pound weight. But I suggest do your best to start with small things. Don't stay in any room, in any company, where racial pejoratives are being hurled about anybody. I would not stay in a room if somebody says, oh, those are white, she's a blonde bimbo. I leave. No, I will not do that. I know that that's poison. Now, mind you, I encourage you to try to develop your courage in small ways. I'll tell you why. I learned this painfully. I was at 20th Century Fox as their first black female director-producer. And the people had given me a wonderful office with sofas in it and all that. And then my secretary had an office, and the receptionist had an office. I mean, we were really living high on the hog. One morning, about 4 of these suits, as they were called, men came over, and they had their shirts open down to here with gold chains all mixed up in the yellow and white and gray hair. Anyway, so they were standing around in my office, and one of them used a racial pejorative about someone who wasn't even, his race was not represented in that office. I said, I'm sorry, you can't use that in my office. So the fellow said, what do you mean? Use what? I said, you can't use that word. That's poison. So he said, no, wait, do you mean we can't use it? In your office? So I said, okay, it's your office, but I'm using it. All right, but you can't use it while I'm using it. Well, they just were so vexed with me. They said, okay, you want more money. We'll talk to your people in New York. It wasn't about money. So finally, I got up. Oh, and one fellow said, look, we gave you a parking space between Alan Alda and David Frost. What is that? So I got up and I walked out of my office and through the secretary's office and out of the receptionist's office and down the steps and realized I'd left my purse. And my keys were in my purse. I would die before I'd go back in there. So I hid in the bushes. I would advise you, if you're going to do something like that, start out with small things. I know that you know courage is the most important of all the virtues. You must know that, because each of you has paid for being here today. I know that. I don't know what you paid, but I know that each of you has paid something. I don't mean finance and money, but each of you has paid something to try to explain to someone else why you're a member of such and such an organization. And sometimes you just don't dare say why. But I know that the revulsion which comes following racial pejoratives and sexual harassment and age harassment and class, and you know we have class, so it's ridiculous to pretend we have no classism in our country. We do. But to see how we have allowed sometimes ourselves to go with that for a while and then say, no, I will not. I will not. Call me anything. And then I know that there are black people who say, I can use the N word because I'm black. No. You see, the N word was created to dehumanize people, like any racial pejorative. And I think if you get poison from the pharmacy, and it's poison, and it has a skull and bones, and poison on it, it's poison. You can pour that content into Bavarian crystal. It's still poison. So nobody can use anything like that and say, I don't mean any harm. So I encourage you. I know that you have your work cut out for you. I know that many of you are looking after older people, after people who are sick, people who can't afford insurance. I know that. And I thank you. We are all indebted to each other. If we only knew it, and we would treat each other with more courtesy, more appreciation. We would take a time to be a little more courteous. With the morning, you have no idea what you've done for a person. When you say, morning, he or she looks at you and says, does he go to my church? Does he work in my building? Who is that? But somehow, for a few seconds, you've been addressed with courtesy and respect. I am so proud to be a human being. I don't know what I would do with fleas or zebras or something like that, but I'm proud that we are able to raise ourselves up from the muck and the mire, raise ourselves up from humilities and embarrassments, and treat each other with some respect and dignity. I meant to come out here and read poetry. I brought 2 books of poetry. I'm not going to read, but I will read one poem. But I write a lot of songs for country musicians. I like country music, but I like also good music. Quincy Jones, with whom I write occasionally, Quincy said when Ray Charles left the South, he was already blind, and he went by bus all the way to Seattle, Washington, and put together a little orchestra. So Ray was 20 years old, Quincy was about 15, but he played 4 or 5 instruments. And so Ray put together a full orchestra, and they played in Vancouver, Washington, Seattle, Portland, all around. And after about 6 months, Ray Charles told the group, he said, we're going to play for a Polish wedding. So Quincy Jones told him, man, I don't play polkas. I'm a jazz musician. Whereupon Ray Charles, black and blind and young and unknown, said, fool, good music is good music. Don't be a fool all your life. So I write with Miss Roberta Flack and a number of songs, and I'm trying to tell the human truth, what it's like to be a human being, what makes us weep and sometimes laugh and sometimes support each other, what makes us dare to go into lonely places and try to lift somebody's spirit. So I write about that. So one day I used to have a place in London. I used to write at night, and about 6 o'clock in the morning I'd shower and then go for a walk. So I was walking down the street one morning, down King's Road in London, and there were a couple of young people. They may have been 18 or 20, young man and woman, and they had a little dog, that dog we all know, you know, from the 70s and the 50s, that little dog. They had backpacks, and they were sitting with their backs against the store. I simply recorded them. But a man came out of the store, which means he had to get there at 7. He came out of the store and turned and spat on those two young people. Now, they looked more like him than they did like me. They were white and he was white. But those were my children, and I know it. And I will not have them treated any which way. Now, I'm not a cursing woman. It's not one of my arts. But I went to the man, and I poked him in the chest. I said, listen, you knock-kneed, slew-footed, you kind of thing in it. Man, the man didn't know what I was saying. The children, I didn't know what I was saying. But finally, the man got up and went back into the store, and the children, the young people, got up, got their dogs and their guitars. And I went home and wrote a song, which is, when you see them on the freeway hitching rides with their dogs and their guitars by their sides, you need to ask, what's all the lying and the dying and the beating and the cheating all about? Take time out. When you see him with a band around his head and an army surplus bunk that makes his bed, you need to ask, what's all the bleeding and the kneading and the kicking and the bicking all about? Take time out. Take a minute, feel some sorrow for the folks who thought tomorrow was a place that they could call up on the phone. Take a month and feel some kindness for the folks who thought that blindness was an illness that affected eyes alone. When you see her walking barefoot in the rain, and you know she's tripping on a one-way train, you need to ask, what's all the bleeding and the kneading and the thrilling and the killing and the lying and the dying all about? We need to take time out. Take time out. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing, and I appreciate it. And if we just would look at each other and say, I thank you. That's really what we should do at each table. Thank you. I thank you. So I thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Well, I mean, if you're going to exchange phone numbers, do that later. After I had written the inaugural poem for Mr. Clinton's first inauguration, United Nations people called and asked me if I would write a poem for the world. Would I write a poem for the foundation, for the building of United Nations in San Francisco? I said, yes, thank you. Whenever you're asked to do something good, always say yes. And then start praying. Go to the library. Go to your minister, your priest, your rabbi, your imam. Go and ask for some ideas. And then ask some little children. If you have, is that Rachel? No. Yes, where is she? No. If you have a 13-year-old in your family, ask her, what do you think? She'll give you something. You may not be able to use it. I said, yes, I'll be glad to. I thought about United Nations. When it was founded in San Francisco, I was 16 years old, and I lived in San Francisco. And we were informed by the newspapers that simultaneous translators were going to be paid $150 a week to translate foreign languages. Well, I knew I had a penchant for languages. It was because many years before, I had been raped at 7, and I told the name of the rapist to my brother, who told it to the family. The man was put in jail for 1 day and released. And about 3 days later, the police came to my mother's house and said the man had been found dead. And it seemed he'd been kicked to death. My 7-year-old logic told me that my voice had killed him. So it was better that I didn't speak at all, that my voice could just go out the window, through the keyhole and kill people, any kind of people. I could only speak to my brother, who loved me so much, and I loved him so much, that I knew a curse couldn't get between our love. So I spoke to him. But for almost 6 years, I didn't. But I thought of my whole body as an ear. And I could go into a room and absorb sound. My grandmother, my father's mother, who raised me, after a few months with my mother's people, she sent me back to my grandmother in Arkansas. And Mama would braid my hair the way old black ladies still braid girls' hair. You sit on the floor, on a pillow, and Mama sits like that. Girl holds Mama's thighs like that. And I had huge hair, and it was very curly. So Mama had her work cut out for her to braid and brush it. She'd bend her hand like that and put it behind my neck so she wouldn't break my neck by accident. She'd brush all this hair. She said, "Sister, Mama don't care what these people say about you must be an idiot or you must be a moron because you can't talk. Sister, Mama don't care. Mama know when you and the good Lord get ready, sister, you're going to be a teacher. You're going to teach all over this world." I used to sit there and think, this poor ignorant woman. Doesn't she know I will never speak? I teach in a number of languages today. I was translator of several Croat in Yugoslavia and taught at the Habima Theater in Tel Aviv. Somehow, because my grandmother and others were rainbows in my clouds, I find that I can speak, yes, and I do. And I thought that if I could do that, then I can speak anywhere. If I can really speak French and Spanish and Italian and Xhosa, wonderful language, Xhosa, and then I can do it anywhere. What a blessing! What a liberation! Amazing. So when I was watching the people, I saw Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt and her friend, the black educator, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, go into this building for the United Nations, and I would just weep because I was 16, about to graduate from high school. I was pregnant and unmarried. And I used to just weep. I thought if I wasn't black and 6 foot tall and pregnant and unmarried and uneducated, I could go in that building and learn all those languages. I could do that. Imagine 50 years later, when the United Nations said, "We want you to come. We want you to write a poem for us, for the world. We want you to come and deliver it here in San Francisco, in the building that is standing in for the building where United Nations was founded." Imagine. I looked at everybody I could remember who'd been kind to me. I looked at a white teacher, Miss Kerwin in San Francisco, who was so brilliant. And she didn't like children, I'm convinced, but she loved informing. So she was a brilliant teacher, and everybody, every good student wanted her. And she called by the last name. Hello, Johnson. Hello, Young. Hello, Wu. Hello, this. Here, speak. And, of course, everybody was ready. And you couldn't hold up your hand. After I left San Francisco, I joined Porgy and Bess, and I was the first dancer with the company and all that. And the papers were filled with Maya Angelou, Hometown Girl Makes Good. I knew Miss Kerwin read everything. Saturday Evening Post, she read Field and Stream, she read... So I knew she knew. I also knew that you couldn't go into her classroom when there was anyone in there but Miss Kerwin. And so I waited. When the room cleared, I went in, and she was at the desk. She looked up, she said, yes. So I said, Miss Kerwin, I was your student for 3 years, and I don't think you remember me. She said, yes, you're Johnson. You sat right there. Yes. I said, well, just wanted to say thank you. She said, you're welcome, and congratulations, you're doing well. Thank you. I thought about all the people, the Japanese people, who had trained me so well how to use chopsticks, and Chinese people who I was so amazed at all the people who had been kind to me. And so I went into United Nations, and I read this poem. I'm going to give this to my host, our hostess, and ask her to put it on your website. I'd like you to have this poem. It's called A Brave and Startling Truth. We, this people on a small and lonely planet, traveling through casual space, past aloof stars, across the way of indifferent suns, to a destination where all signs tell us it is possible and imperative that we learn a brave and startling truth. And when we come to it, to the day of peacemaking, when we release our fingers from fists of hostility, when we come to it, when the curtain falls on the minstrel show of hate and faces sooted with scorn are scrubbed clean, when battlefields and coliseum no longer rake our unique particular sons and daughters up from the bloody and bruised grass to lay them in identical plots in foreign soil, when the rapacious storming of the churches, the screaming racket in the temples have ceased, when we come to it, when we let the rifles fall from our shoulders and our children can dress their dolls in flags of truce, when landmines of death have been removed and our aged can walk into their evenings of peace, when childhood dreams are not kicked awake by nightmares of sexual abuse, when we come to it, then we will confess that not the pyramids with their stones set in mysterious perfection, nor the gardens of Babylon hanging as eternal beauty in our collective memory, not the Grand Canyon kindled into delicious color by western sunsets, nor the Danube flowing its blue soul into Europe, not the sacred peak of Mount Fuji stretching to the rising sun, neither Father Amazon nor Mother Mississippi, who without favor nurture all creatures in their depths and on their shores. Those are not the only wonders of the world. When we come to it, we, this people on this minuscule globe, who reach daily for the blade, the knife, the dagger, yet who petition in the dark for tokens of peace. We, this people on this mote of matter, in whose mouths abide cankerous words which challenge our very existence, yet out of those same mouths can come songs of such exquisite sweetness that the heart falters in its labor and the body is quieted into awe. We, this people on this small and clashing planet, whose hands can strike with such abandon that in a twinkling life is sapped from the living, yet those same hands can touch with such healing, irresistible tenderness that the haughty neck is happy to bow and the proud back is glad to bend. Of such chaos, of such contradiction, we learn we are neither devils nor divines. When we come to it, we, this people on this wayward floating body, created on this earth, of this earth, have the power to fashion for this earth a climate where every man and every woman can live freely without sanctimonious piety, without crippling fear. When we come to it, we must confess that we are the possible, we are the miraculous, we are the true wonder of this world. That is when, and only when we can say, when it looked like the sun wasn't gonna shine anymore, I'm willing to be a rainbow in somebody's cloud. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Dr. Angelou. Today is a special day because you are here with us. But more importantly, the world is a better place because of your love, because of your grace, and because of your accomplishments. We celebrate you today for your extraordinary life of giving and teaching. The United Way's Women's Leadership Council has chosen you for our first Lifetime Achievement Award. This award is presented to you because you have demonstrated a history of exceptional leadership and philanthropy. Through your love of mankind, Dr. Angelou, we celebrate you because you are concerned about other women, about other people. And you take personal accountability for improving the outlook that people have on life. Dr. Angelou, it is truly my honor and I am humbled to present this award to you on behalf of the United Way's Women's Leadership Council. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, you can't give without getting. You know that. The more you give, the more you get. There it is. It's just the truth of it. I knew I would get something. I thought, you know, it would be enough to have your smiles, to have you say, when I said something truthful, and you say, that's the truth. It was enough. But to receive this the first, look at it. My God, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. I thank United Way. I thank every woman and man, the men who were courageous enough to come out. man here. Thank you. And I thank the children. I thank you for bringing that one wonderful little 13-year-old girl. I know that we were asked to bring children. And let's bring more of the children. More of the little white children and black children and Asian children. Let's bring more of them to our gatherings. They will understand much more. They know when you're lying. When you say, oh, no, we have no racial pejorative. No, not in our family. When everybody who looks at dinner table, at breakfast, at the Thanksgiving and Christmas and bat mitzvahs, and everybody looks just like you. And they have to say, what do they think I am, a damn fool? They have no black friends. They're all black. They have no white friends, no Asian, no Spanish speaking, and they live in this world. So, my darling, bring the children. Take them with you to church, to the whatever your church is, your temple. Take them. Take them to the women meeting, the men's meeting. Please. These are our tomorrows. And they will give us what we deserve. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Angelou, for your wisdom and for being here with us today to share it. And thank you, Susan, for your leadership as chair over this fabulous luncheon. This has been a great day for United Way, a great day for the Women's Leadership Council to celebrate and recognize the power and influence of women. My name is Judy Chanel, EVP for Cone Health, and the first woman president of the Moses H. Cone Memorial Hospital. And more importantly, vice chair of the board of United Way of Greater Greensboro. A wise woman once said, I have found that among its other benefits, giving liberates the soul of the giver. Giving liberates the soul of the giver. Can you guess who might have said that? Dr. Angelou said that. Today I want to thank those of you who have given back to Greensboro and our surrounding communities. And I want to challenge those of you who haven't to think about liberating your soul through giving. Dr. Angelou talked about the rainbow in the clouds. Let yourself be a rainbow in the clouds. Today you heard earlier on about mentoring programs for youth. You heard about domestic violence intervention programs, to name just a few of the many, many programs that are supported by United Way of Greater Greensboro. Those only scratch the surface. Think about it. Right now in Greensboro, a child is watching their parent die. Right now in Greensboro, a homeless person is standing in line at a food bank. Right now in Greensboro, a woman is being abused or even raped. Yes, in our community, right here, right now. Several United Way partner agencies have been recognized already, and I'd just like to commend them again and ask them to stand. Anyone from a United Way partner agency, thank you for the services you provide to our community. Please stand and take a moment to be recognized. If you want to be involved, I encourage you to see one of these people. Today you experienced firsthand the words of an iconic figure of the world. You witnessed video stories of empowerment. Awards were given to neighbors who've chosen to give back. And you've had the companionship of women who care, and a United Way who wants to make a difference for all. I'm a United Way Women's Leadership member. I'm a corporate partner. I'm an advocate for our community. In addition, I'm a wife, a mother, a nurse, a healthcare leader, a daughter. I'm a friend and a person who truly cares about our community and the condition of my neighbor. Please join me in the United Way by making things better in Greensboro for all. At your seats, in your packet, you have a pledge card. I have one right here so I can show it to you. It looks like this. I encourage you to take a moment and fill out that pledge card. I'm asking you for a gift of $1,000 to address issues like domestic violence, hopelessness, education, access to health and wellness services, and even job training to help people earn a living. The impact we want to make is to improve the basic living conditions of all and enable lifelong success. I request $1,000, and of course, any amount that you can give is appropriate. As Dr. Angelou said, you don't have to try and lift that 100-pound weight right away. Start with 20 pounds. And I encourage you to liberate your soul and be a giver. Volunteers and staff will be at the door as you exit to answer your questions and to collect your pledge cards. And in the spirit of giving, we have a few things to give away here today, too. So find your raffle tickets, please. And I'm really hoping someone's going to come up here with a box so a number can be drawn. Ah. I will not be able to see this. Does everybody have their card out? Their little raffle ticket? It is 781668. 771668. 781, sorry. Yes. Could you please come up here? So you have won a night stay at the O'Henry and a golf outing for two right here at Grandover. Congratulations. And while she's making her way up here to receive her gift, I'd also like to note for each table, the person at each table with a birthday closest to today, please take home the beautiful orchid that is in the center of your table and recognize, we'll get them back. Okay, everybody, welcome back. So those orchids were a gift of the Fresh Market. Thank you very much to the Fresh Market for donating those orchids. Also, remember, if you would like to learn more about United Way Women's Leadership Council, you will be getting an email to learn more about that event that will occur on June 13th at 5:30 p.m. Before we go, a few special recognitions. First, to the Women's Leadership Council. Can members of the Women's Leadership Council please stand? I know you were recognized before, and one more time. Thank you so much for all you've done. I know Dr. Angelou asked this gentleman to stand, and I'm going to ask him to stand again. Chancellor Harold Martin of North Carolina A&T University. You see, Chancellor Martin chaired our 2012 fundraising campaign and helped us raise over $10 million. And once again, thank you to our sponsors. We could not have done this without you. Finally, Julie Longmire and Jennifer Gipp, You have done a lot of work behind the scenes, and to all the United Way. And can I please ask all the United Way staff who are present to stand? These people work diligently behind the scenes for us every day. One final reminder as you leave, Dr. Angelou's book, Mom and Me and Mom, is for sale in the lobby. Please stop by and take a copy home with you today. We hope you've enjoyed your afternoon and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
And you can let your head down. Hey, I know it's hard.